Hi, my name is Andy Quinones, and we're here at Camp Cedar Crest, and I'm here with
Alyssa Bostrom.
And I'm with the Pomona Rotary Club, and she is with the Pomona PD, Police Department. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what are you going to speak today to all our youth?
I'm going to speak about leadership and emotions.
All right. Well, I know her from Pomona, and she is a natural leader, does great work with our community, and we're looking forward to hearing her speak to the kids a little bit later, so stay tuned.
Checks in the mail. Thank you.
With over 20 years at the Pomona Police Department, Lieutenant Bostrom has served in various roles, including patrol officer, gang officer, crisis negotiator, and motor supervisor. She has been instrumental in developing department programs and integrating technology to enhance safety and efficiency. Holding a master's in executive leadership from Liberty University, she currently oversees the Quality of Life Unit, addressing homelessness, mental health, and community programs. As the advisor of wellness coordinator, as the department's wellness coordinator, she also advocates for officer well-being and healthy living. Lieutenant Bostrom has been with the Pomona Police Department for over 20 years. Once again, she has served as patrol officer, gang officer, crisis negotiator, field training officer, and motor supervisor. She has played a key role in developing new department programs and acquiring technology assets that improve efficiency and increase officer and community safety. Lieutenant Bostrom has placed an emphasis on community involvement and education. As the current area leader for Pomona Council District 3, she continuously works to forge trust and relationships with the community through direct outreach and partnered program solving. Lieutenant Bostrom has a master's degree in executive leadership from Liberty University. She currently manages the Quality of Life Unit, which includes the Homelessness Encampment and Response Team, Mental Health Evaluation Unit, Community Programs Unit, and Police Resource Officers. She is also the Department Wellness Coordinator, ensuring police department personnel have access to a variety of resources to encourage and support healthy living. Let's give it a warm welcome to Lieutenant Bostrom.
Not my slideshow. There any cheerleaders in the house by chance? Any football players, football fans? Dallas Cowboys, anybody? So I'm actually not a Dallas Cowboys fan by any means, but I will say the Thunderstruck song is the song that the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders come out on the field when they do their whole like awesome line dance and high kicks. I'm not doing any high kicks for you. There's no line dancing. But on the topic of leadership, Netflix has a show called America's Sweethearts. And I was a softball player in high school, and I was kind of the jerk shortstop that while the cheerleaders were in the outfield, in left field doing whatever they do, and towers and kicks, I'd kind of let a ball fly here and there just to mess them up and piss them off. But I will say I was super impressed with this Netflix show because the amount of leadership that's in there from the lady that runs, selects all of these cheerleaders, and keeps this program as the top program in all of NFL. And I've been watching football since a kid. Again, like you either love Dallas or you hate them. I don't like them, but great topic if you're looking for something to binge watch. So just like to say hello to my council member. Councilmember Canales here is part of the Pomona Rotary also. And thank you to Darren from Pomona Rotary for inviting me to be here. I always worry about the after lunch session because I don't know how high school is, but like trying to teach cops after lunch, it's just not going to happen. So I appreciate your attempted attention at this, but I wanted to talk about leadership and emotions. I didn't catch the lady's name that came up before me, but she mentioned emotions also in her presentation. So just a little bit about me. I joined Rotary at the end of last year. I was invited to attend by a couple of different people, but I thought it was pretty cool because not only have I worked in Pomona for a long time, it's an opportunity to interact with people that live in my city, people that work in my city, and we can all just brainstorm and find different ways to serve our community, which is pretty cool. But I was actually really impressed with the four-way test. This wasn't something that I knew about before I joined Rotary. But these principles are in line with the principles that I grew up with within my family, within my faith, and within, as I've moved through my career with a lot of the mentors that I've had. But I like that it doesn't matter what your background is, what your religion is. If you have one, it's kind of like the golden rule: just treat people the way you want to be treated, and you're going to be good. If you follow these principles in whatever profession you're looking at or in your daily life, then you're not going to be too far off. Just to give you an idea of what a lieutenant is, I sit in the middle of the food chain. So when I got hired, I started as an officer. I had to go through a promotional process to become a corporal. A corporal is, I can be a field supervisor when it suits the department, but other than that, I'm on patrol handling a beat, or I'm on a special detail doing the grunt work, but it's the corporal's position to support the sergeant. Sergeants are usually in charge of a patrol squad. They're in charge of a special detail. So I had to go through a promotional process to get to sergeant. And I was, as a sergeant, I was lucky enough, well, actually as a corporal and a sergeant, I was lucky enough to go to Motors, ride the motorcycle, and try to kill myself every day. It's great. Any motorcycle riders in here, dirt bike riders? Yeah, I love it. So now I'm a lieutenant, so my boss is the captain. We have a civilian division commander, and then you have the head man in charge, the chief of police. If you want to know if it's easy to be a lieutenant, I'll say it's as easy as riding a bike, but the bike is on fire, I'm on fire, and the fire is on fire. So, there's a lot of moving parts to my position. Again, I deal with homelessness, which isn't always easy. I have community programs, so a lot of the what to say, what not to say, that's kind of my job. The things that aren't popular or the things that are bothering the community, those are the things that very much hit my face. And then, if it bothers my chief, it bothers me. So, and then it just kind of trickles down from there. This is me as a patrol cop. I was a field training officer, which means I get the new cops that come in and try to teach them how to not kill themselves, how to write a police report that doesn't get them sued. Very, very fun job. I spent the first 9 years of my career on patrol. And then I went to hang out with the cool kids, and I went to the gang unit. That was a lot of fun. I was an officer still here, and then I ended up promoting out of the gang unit where I returned to patrol as a corporal, and then I went to Motors as a corporal. When it comes to leadership, it's super funny. This guy right here is old enough to be my granddad. This guy's old enough to be my great uncle. And it's weird when, and I'm sure you guys will all face this in whatever professions you choose, or maybe you're seeing this now where you play a sport and maybe you're a freshman or sophomore on the varsity team, but you're very much a leader, but you have seniors and juniors that you're in a position to oversee. Both of those guys are, they didn't just teach me how to not kill myself on a street. I grew up riding dirt bikes, so motorcycles wasn't a completely foreign thing to me. But these guys taught me how to be a good patrol cop too. So it was really weird stepping into that role as they're looking at me, asking me, "Hey boss, what do you want me to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. You've been doing this since I was in junior high." It's really awkward, but I think if you're on the right path, if you're in a position like that, if the people are respecting you and showing you the respect and courtesy that you deserve as, just having the stripes or the bars on your sleeve. But, in turn, I show them the same respect as I don't need to treat them like a child, even though I'm their boss. This was me directing traffic my first week of I'm not that old, I'm old enough, but this was when I promoted out of Motors the first time and became a sergeant. This was the first patrol squad that I had. And it's a lot of fun having people to lead, to teach. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That probably isn't a politically correct statement, but It doesn't need to be my way or the highway, but everybody on my teams have always had certain strengths, maybe strengths that I have or I don't have, but I want to try to highlight their strengths, but you can't just be a gang cop. You have to understand how to interact with the community. You have to understand how to take a traffic collision report, whether that's your forte or not. So it's kind of just teaching people how to stay out of trouble and, if anything, just planting the seeds along the way to try to get people to, they can't come back later on, I was never told that. No, you were told that, but it's just a matter of maturing. The way we are as 5-year-olds is not the way we're going to be as 25-year-olds, and it's not the way we're going to be as 55-year-olds. Our brain's constantly developing, and hopefully we're all learning and evolving as we get older. This was one of our training rides when I was a sergeant in motors, but I share these pictures because all of these guys and girls are a lot of fun, but sometimes they do some really dumb things, like really, really dumb. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can give them the best advice possible, and sometimes they still step in it. But as leaders, it's real easy to jump to conclusions when someone's complaining about somebody that you oversee or somebody that you work with. In my case, it's real easy for people to come in, and believe it or not, as a traffic supervisor, people weren't coming in to complain about the motor cops writing tickets, being rude, writing tickets. It was always parking enforcement. They called me a racist comment. They were cursing at me. They were this, they were that. Sometimes it's real easy to, you want to believe the person that you're talking to, and they sound super credible maybe. But as leaders, we really do need to give people the benefit of the doubt. I can get super, super angry, like, oh man, my parking enforcement officer was cursing at this person, and I'm going to talk to that parking enforcement officer, and they're going to get in trouble. But we need to take a deep breath. I don't want to call the person who's complaining a liar, but at the same time, it's like, oh well, that's horrible. I'm going to go watch the body-worn camera, and if that's the case, then my goodness, I'm going to deal with that, as I should. And then, you start getting that, they're starting to do that little dance where they're like, oh, man, there's body-worn camera. And you're like, yeah, there's body-worn camera. Oh, never mind, I'll just pay the ticket. People do lie, but you still want to be respectful, and you still want to be transparent, and you still want to show that you can, just because we work together doesn't mean that I'm going to take your side every single time. You do have to look at the full picture. But when it comes to emotions, you have to keep yourself in check. I can't get mad at the citizen that's complaining, even if they're lying, but I also can't jump to conclusions and get mad at my parking officer. So I just want to share a story. So a young woman was waiting for her flight at an airport, so she decided to buy a book and to read while she was waiting, and a packet of cookies to snack on. She sat down in an armchair in a VIP lounge to relax and read in peace. A man sat down in the seat next to her, opened up his magazine and started reading. When she took the first bite of her cookie, the man reached over and took out a cookie, started eating it. The lady felt irritated and said nothing, but she thought, what nerve? I'd like to punch this guy for being rude. For each cookie she took, the man also took one. This infuriated her, but she did not want to cause a scene. When only one cookie remained, she thought to herself, what would this rude man do now? Then the man, taking the last cookie, divided it in half, giving her half and eating his half. She was fed up at that point, so she gets really angry. And in a huff, she took her book, the rest of her things, stormed off to board the plane. When she sat down in her seat on the plane, she looked in her purse to take out her reading glasses, and to her surprise, her packet of cookies was there untouched and unopened. She felt so ashamed she realized that she was wrong. The man had shared his cookies with her willingly, while she had been very angry, thinking that he was helping himself to her cookies, and now there was no chance to explain herself nor apologize. So I like this story because, again, I don't want to be that woman. I don't want to be the person that doesn't have all the facts and is starting to form opinions and conclusions. So, just pushed the wrong button. Good. It's easy to get upset when you're not paying attention. In my role, I have so many different units and so many different projects that I'm working on. It's a lot to take in at once. But I can't just go half-cocked because I heard, a small portion of the story. So I think of that story often just to remind myself, to save myself some embarrassment, make sure that I take the time to take a deep breath and kind of collect myself and the facts before I decide I want to start going crazy. This warm and fuzzy looking guy right here, he's my boss, and he's out of the military. He thinks he's big and scary. I have a lot of respect for this man, but little does he know Sister Georgina in first grade was much scarier. So he's very good at what he does. He's very methodical, has a lot of great qualities, but he's not the guy you go to when you're having a bad day. Like, you're just not going to get that, that hug and that, that emotional reassurance. But sometimes he drives me crazy because he's just on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to emotions. But I will have to say that he's taught me some excellent advice when it comes to emotions, because he'll say, don't meet emotion with emotion. And when we're dealing with people, it's important to remember that we're not dealing with creatures of logic. If you just got in trouble, sometimes you get a little offensive, like, oh man, but I didn't mean to. And your boss doesn't care. Your boss really just wants to get to, did it happen? Did it not happen? If it did happen, let's correct it and move on. But you're upset because, what kind of trouble am I going to get in? There's just, is the person on one side of the table, you're thinking one way, your boss on the other side of the table should be thinking a different way. But it is really important as leaders to temper your emotions, because if the person sitting in the seat across from your desk is emotional and you're emotional, then what do you guys have? I know you are, what am I? No, I know you are, what am I? And that's not going to be constructive. It's not going to get you guys anywhere. Obviously there's a difference between getting upset, losing your cool, and being outright angry. Do you guys know the difference between anger and frustration? What do you guys think? Yeah, exactly. So anger basically happens right away. Frustration is something that builds over time. Anger happens right away. Because my boss is so warm and fuzzy, he does like to jump to conclusions, but then because he's very military and it's rank and structure, he comes to me to handle it. But now he's upset, and sometimes it's hard for me because I'm hearing what he's saying, and it's like, oh man, I really hope that didn't happen. Okay, and I have a sergeant that I oversee, and then I have 2 corporals that I oversee, and I need to make sure that my sergeant isn't losing his cool when I call him to tell him what one of his officers did or what one of his corporals did. So it is important to realize that it's okay to get angry, it's okay to get upset, it's okay to get frustrated, but it's how we as leaders react to that's going to matter. There's different things that we can do to temper some of these issues, and I'll go over some other points. But the American Psychological Association gave a couple ways to relax. That you can tell yourself relax, you can tell yourself take it easy, you can do yoga exercises, you can visualize a relaxing experience. Sometimes I need to count to 10. Sometimes I need to write an email that I just don't want to have that angry tone. So I can type it out, but I need to walk away from it before I push send on it, because I don't just want to be that keyboard warrior who sends, some snooty toned message, whether I'm right or wrong. So whatever you guys need to do to, kind of bring yourself back to reality, I recommend doing that. And a lot of it is just being respectful to other people too. I know I piss my boss off sometimes. It's just the nature of what I do. I can try not to make mistakes or try not to push back too hard, but it's in my nature to butt heads with him a little bit. And I'm sure he gets mad at me, but thank God that he's never gone off cursing at me. I've never gone off cursing at the people that work for me. And I think being a leader in a lot of ways is like having kids. You want the best for your kids. You want to teach your kids, train your kids. There's times you're going to have to discipline your kids. Hopefully none of you guys have kids yet. But as kids yourselves, I'm sure you don't like it when your parents physically hit you maybe, or when they take away your iPad, whatever the case is. But you want to show the same kindness, the same respect to the people that are working for you. And it's the same kindness and respect that you want to have from them in return. And my experience, it works well when you can have that two-way conversation with people, whether they messed up, whether the perception was they messed up, or whether you just need information. But it doesn't need to be anything that's, some big conflict. And conflict in and of itself, like a lot of people don't like having those uncomfortable conversations. My boss prides himself on having very little emotion and just being able to deal with whatever issue is there. That's fine. My recommendation is don't be robotic with people. He's very robotic, and a lot of people can't relate to him. You can have two-way conversations with people, and you can listen to what's bothering them. You can listen to what they like or what they don't like, and you can still get your message across of, as your boss, I need this performance from you. These are the department's expectations for you, things like that. If you focus on performance and not the person, it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't like your high-pitched voice. I just need you, when you speak, to say the right things, which is, whatever you need it to be. So this is just some advice. Pay attention to your behavior. Body language goes a long way. If I have an employee who wants to come in and talk to me about something that's bothering them, and I throw my pen on the desk and I push my desk back away from my computer and I cross my arms, probably not going to think I'm very receptive, or that I actually have time to care about what issue is being brought to my attention. And sometimes that can be very hard. You have so much going on in your day, whether it's homework or whether it's, chores, whatever. But your people read your body language before they hear the words coming out of your mouth. And just, again, whatever you need to do to stay calm. Sometimes I have guys that come in my office, and the more they talk, the more they dig themselves a hole, and the more I feel like steam's coming out of my ears. At some point, you just need to stop them from talking, and you just need to control the situation. They don't need to ramble and just dig themselves a bigger hole. Watch and listen. If you're trying to mentor, if you're trying to correct, if you're trying to guide or direct somebody, then what does their body language look like? People will, maybe they don't like you. You can be a good leader and not be liked. That's fine. Leadership is not about popularity at all. But try to discern if there's something bigger there. Sometimes we have cops that, they're coming to work and they're not writing good police reports. They're not turning their police reports in on time. They have all kinds of performance issues. And for me to just write up a letter of counseling, like, here's your letter of counseling, knock that off. But it's like, is everything okay at home? Is somebody sick? Is something wrong? Sometimes when you try to give the person the benefit of the doubt to, even if it's not at home, is there something at work that's bothering you? Are we not providing you enough gas to get you through a shift? Are we not providing enough pencils for you to write your reports, those kinds of things. So sometimes it's not just a one-way conversation. You do need to, to talk a little with the people you're in charge of. Try to stay positive. It's super, super easy to be negative about things. You guys probably weren't even born in 2008. Sometimes I feel old when I talk to kids, but 2008 was all the budgets and the economy just took a massive dump. So we're taking pay cuts, we don't get new cars, we don't have enough money to buy the equipment that we need, and it's super easy to get negative, super easy. I hate my job, I'm gonna quit, I wanna go find another agency. But especially as leaders, if I look to my leaders for leadership and they're sour and they're complaining, then one, that's not good leadership, but two, then the troops start to get scared. So sometimes it's hard to stay positive, but like I read this thing a couple months ago. It's, if your glass is half empty, pour some water in it and get over it, right? Like, make it positive. Don't wait for somebody to pour water in your glass. Go get your water, control your own situation. You can't control everything, but there is a lot about ourselves and our own mentality. Happiness is a choice. And if things suck, hey, I'm still alive, and sometimes it's a matter of perspective. Again, the previous speaker was talking about the Eaton fires. I have friends who lost their homes. I have friends who, they were evacuated during that time period. But, what right do I have to sit in my house that didn't burn down and complain about anything? So sometimes there's always somebody who has it worse than you. But, you just need to try to find that connection with the person that you're talking to or the people that you're leading, to try to keep them focused on what the mission is, and what they can do to stay positive in things. And sometimes you're going to have to feed them the suggestions because they won't come up with the ideas themselves. Focus on the here and now. Don't bring up problems from the past. I have kids that have been written up for all kinds of things, but I can't go back to 5 years. Like, I remember when you crashed that car. Like, that's done. We've dealt with that personnel issue. There's nothing more to talk about, and I just need to focus on what the issue is right now and how we're going to correct whatever the deficiency is, or we're going to work on a project, and these are the expectations for the project, and this is what I need you to accomplish. as you guys start dating and getting married too, there's nothing worse than bringing up the past. And, if I said I was sorry for it, I was sorry. And if I'm taking corrective measures and actions to not repeat the behavior, then I don't want to hear, what a jerk I was or how I made a mistake. And I think that's kind of fair for everybody. As leaders, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. I am not perfect by any means. I love leadership. I love reading books about it. I love taking classes on it, whether it's law enforcement specific or, whether it's a book, reading about Abraham Lincoln and his leadership style. It's great, but I'm definitely going to make mistakes. And I want the people that I lead and supervise to give me the same grace that they should really expect from me. I can't expect perfection from them because I can't give them perfection myself. All I can do is do my best and try to prepare myself to be the best leader that I can be. And then ask yourself, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And again, this just goes to the same thing. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't need people to do things the way I want them to do it specifically because, your way may be better than what I was thinking to begin with. And I, as a leader, should give you that innovative freedom or that creative ability to, all I need is a community event put together. I don't care how you go about doing it, as long as it's successful and as long as you can make it happy and as long as we're engaging with the community and meeting the chief's expectations, then we're good to go. So I find that, being a micromanager with, I want a community event right here at this date, at this time, and I want people all in, green sweatshirts, or it's just not fun. It's not fun for anybody. But it's just because somebody's going about something a different way doesn't in and of itself mean that, that it's wrong. So sometimes is it a procedural difference? Is it, is it a policy violation, or is it within policy? It's just a different way than you would think about going about it. Give people their creative freedom, so they'll definitely appreciate it. And then take responsibility for your communication. Nobody likes conflict. Nobody likes having to call somebody in their office and, hey man, this is what you did wrong. I need you to fix it. Especially my department, where I've grown up with the same people for 22 years. It's not like I work for LAPD. I promote to sergeant. I go to a different division within LAPD's jurisdiction. I mean, like I said, I was supervising when I promoted to corporal, I was 34 years old, and I'd been a cop at the time for maybe 13 years, and I'm supervising two old men that are old enough to be my dad, my grandpa, and have been cops way longer than I have. It's super awkward, but sometimes you just need to own your position, your responsibility. And then also when it comes to conflict, conflict isn't a bad thing until if you don't do anything about the conflict, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and then you're really going to have an uncomfortable conversation. And it's much easier to have that conversation about, please stop doing this, or I need you to do this, or can we adjust this? It's much easier before it blows up into something big. Like I loved working with the motors because they're like a bunch of sibling rivalries. I can let them bicker amongst themselves, and most of the time they can punk each other or peer pressure each other into making the right decisions or doing the right thing or correcting certain behaviors. But at some point, if those two motors are just arguing with themselves and it's turning into something negative, and it has the ability to affect the whole unit, and if the whole unit isn't meshing, we're going to have major problems. I can't have little cliques within the motor unit because we're just not big enough. So just make sure that you address conflict before it becomes a problem, but communication is definitely important. So the moral of all this is just don't let your emotions get the best of you. Let them show the best of you, and remember to share your cookies. So with that, that's all I had to say about that, but I wanted to open up to just a little bit of Q&A if you guys have any questions about anything law enforcement related, anything leadership-wise, anything but the winning lotto ticket numbers. I don't have that answer. Yes, ma'am. Am I planning on becoming chief? No. I have enough gray hair. I don't want to say no because the opportunity is always there. And as leaders, I think, regardless of what your faith is or what you believe, in my opinion, there have been certain things in my life where I'm like, nope, definitely not going to do that. But now I can look back and it's like, God does certain things, or the universe, the forces, however you want to say it. But as leaders, we should always be looking for opportunities. And if If I'm the best person to promote to captain next, there'll be a captain promotional process at the end of the year. All I can do is throw my hat in. If I don't get it, it wasn't meant to be. If I get it, great. But there are a lot of lawsuits that chiefs of police will walk out the door with, where they have to come back and do depositions, and it's, there's some days I wish I was just in a black and white again, handling calls and chasing guys over fences and doing that kind of stuff, because it was just way more fun. But, like I said, I knew what I was signing up for, and, the position I'm in is kind of different. I'm not in charge of any enforcement squads. I'm not in charge of, I don't say my units don't do fun things, but the community programs are kind of fun. We put together some cool events, but it is a little, I bought an ice maker for the police department. You're like, that doesn't sound like fun. Well, it really wasn't. But my God, if I don't get, how many cops come up to me and civilian report writers, everybody loves the fact that we have this big giant ice machine. And I went through major headaches doing a gym refurbishment. And, I'm just like, I'm over it. I've worked out in this gym for 22 years. I didn't care what was in it. I just wanted to do a good job, put it together, but cops love it. So if the cops are happy, the jailers are happy, our personnel are happy, then I'm happy. But I don't want to put a limit on where I'll end up, because I don't really know. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, because has working with the community expanded my viewpoint on being a leader. I benefited greatly from mentorship early on in my career. I had, he was a corporal, and then he was my sergeant, and then he retired as a captain. But early on in my career, it was like, hey, you know what, your dope arrests are great. The fact that you're chasing gangsters, getting guns is great. You like your DUI arrests, those are all great. But what are you doing in the community-oriented area? He'd be like, go to this meeting, go to this meeting. And even now where I'm at right now, the chief's burdens aren't necessarily, you didn't get enough guns on the street last night. Councilmember Canales is not going to yell at the chief because there weren't enough gun arrests last month. She's going to get upset with a lot of quality of life issues. There's prostitutes on the street, and the community doesn't like it because the community is looking at the issues that are right in front of them, where I think especially young cops, you want to become a cop to run and gun and jump over fences and fall on your face and go on to the next one. But listening to the community is incredibly important, because I can't tell you what's important, because I lived in Pomona for 10 years. So I feel a little bit different about it, where when I first I first started working in the community, I don't know what really bothers you. I can see the crime and that bothers me, but it really opens up some really good dialogue when you start talking with people all over the city, all ages, all different backgrounds, because it really does open your perspective for, so now as a manager, how do I address, if homelessness is a major complaint and I'm in charge of the homeless team, how do I make their job more effective? Do they need more equipment? Do they need more personnel? Do we need more overtime money? There's a lot of things that I can adjust within that, so that Councilmember Canales doesn't have this constant, hey man, homeless guy keeps camping on my lawn. Hey man, this homeless guy keeps breaking windows at my business, that type of thing. In the back. He's basically asking about my position. I sit at a desk all day. It drives me crazy. But again, I knew what I signed up for. We have a lot of people that promote after 4 years, 5 years. They start going to special details after 3 years, 4 years, and our department's just getting younger and younger. So, I probably should have it out of my system by now, but I don't. I wrote my last traffic ticket last year to a speeder. Sometimes it's hard to let go of, but for me, it's just a matter of, if I have skills and abilities that can improve our operations and the way that our patrol force or our special details are implementing enforcement or community engagement, things like that, then I want to be able to give them the policies and procedures and ice machines and gym equipment in order to do those things effectively, because to me it really is important. So I don't want to say I'm not having fun, but I don't know that I'd use the word fun. Yes. How many years have you been in the force? 22. Yeah, I'm a lot. I started at 20. I started at 22. I turned 23 on field training, and I graduated high school a year early. All I've ever wanted to be was a police officer since I was 5. I have no idea why. No cops in my family. I come from a military family. My great uncles and grandparents, but I have no idea. Like it just. But now in hindsight, I'm like, I was 23 years old, telling people, telling husbands and wives how to behave. I'm not married. I have no kids. It's quite strange. But I think, if you work hard, it really doesn't matter what your age is. You study and you study and you study and you just do what you can to try to become if you want to be in IT, if you want to be a car mechanic, whatever, the effort you put into it is the effort that you're going to get out of it. But my career has been a lot of fun. Thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. What frustrates me the most and what brings me the most pleasure? I think going through Black Lives Matters, that was incredibly frustrating because the media was mainstream media was very much portraying things a certain way. And I remember, I can go back to OJ, I can go back to when Rodney King got beat up by the cops, and, for the Rodney King beating, what was the biggest problem there? It's not that force wasn't required at some point, it's that at no point did anybody try to put handcuffs on the guy. And this whole mentality of, cops only look out for cops. No, that's not true. Maybe at a certain point that was true, but we've had this big, long learning curve over the years where, if cops are doing something wrong, then we're doing something wrong and we should be held accountable. But it's when the media just wants to run with a narrative, and it's a narrative that negatively impacts people who are really working very hard. Like like I said, we make mistakes, we do dumb things sometimes, but the policy and procedure manual when I started was probably that big, and now it's this big, and it's written by a bunch of attorneys, and we have to review certain sections every single year. So it's frustrating in the sense that we get painted with a broad brush. But I will say, during Black Lives Matter, I probably had more meals paid for by the random citizen when I went out to get something to eat, more cups of coffee paid for. I still felt a lot of support within my community. And when I would, go to other cities, I was feeling the same support there. And it's just unfortunate that, you work hard, you give up, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of family time, a lot of holidays, and, to just get that automatic, you're the devil. One bad apple doesn't make the whole batch bad. But now you fast forward a couple years and we're having a hard time hiring. Well, why are we having a hard time hiring? Because the media has been speaking negatively about cops, and every time we make a mistake, that's what we highlight. We don't highlight any of the good things that we're trying to do, or any of the positive changes that we've that we've taken a hard look in the mirror, and we have made a lot of changes. There are a lot of things that, God, certain things that, that's just the way you did police work. You were trained to do it this way. There's no way we could do that stuff today. And I don't look back like, oh, shucks. I look back like, hey, yeah, man, that's great. Doctors can use all kinds of technology to do brain surgery and make small incisions as opposed to cutting your head open. Every profession should have that level of growth. What brings me the most pleasure is probably doing stuff like this. It's nice to be able to, it's always been fun to run and gun and, bring in, I'm saving lives because I got 50 DUI arrests this year, and, I'm teaching cops how to do, DUIs and, drunk drivers kill people. Yeah, all that stuff is important, but when it comes down to it, if you don't have the two-way communication, you don't have the, the willingness or the ability to go interact with the people that you're serving, then what does it really matter? But it's, I look at the staffing within our city, and I look at how hard it is for other agencies to staff, their vacancies, not just in dispatch, not just in the jail, not just with police, just in every aspect. But I want there to be a good police force if I retire in 5 years, 6 years, I want there to be a strong police force when I leave. I don't want it to be, well, we don't have enough to keep going. So it gets a little frustrating, but there's always hope. So, yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm getting one more question? Okay. It is, though. We do have a great pension. We're in CalPERS, which is the teachers are in, I think, well, actually, my mom retired from a school district. She's in CalPERS also. But, if you start at 21, you can retire at 55 or 57, where the average age is 65. Top step police officer right now is making $61 an hour, I think. Mind you, in my city, they're earning $61 an hour. Like, it's very difficult, but there's Laverne Police Department hiring, Huntington Beach is hiring. There's all these different agencies that are hiring. A lot of it is just what you want. I almost got hired at Signal Hill Police Department, which is like 2.5 square miles with, 2 cops on duty at any given time. I would have gone crazy there. Pomona is super, super busy. There's never any downtime. There's always something to do, and I've had a blast. There's different ways to serve your community. I think law enforcement, whether it's dispatch or jail or police work, I think it's definitely a calling. Again, you're going to sacrifice a lot. For police officers, you have an academy you go through that's 6 months. Jail has, I think, a 6-week academy. Dispatchers don't have an academy. Records doesn't have an academy, but there are financial benefits to it, retirement benefits. But I think a lot of it is just, where do you see yourself? How do you want to help serve your community? My dad's an architect, but my dad still coached youth soccer and he did a lot within his community. He's very active with city council and youth commission, stuff like that. I think no matter what we do, we should be serving our community, giving back to our community. But, it just depends what kind of setup you're looking for. If you want to hear fun things and do fun things and see crazy things that your friends will never believe happen, then Pomona's the place for you. But again, there are a lot of smaller agencies where I grew up in South Bay, Redondo Beach, and it was cool because Officer Fairchild was out of the Vietnam War, came in, didn't even do a police academy at the time, just got in a car with another senior cop, did training for 6 weeks, and then went 10-8 on his own. But this dude knew everybody. He knew the parents, he knew the kids, he knew the grandkids, he knew everybody. He could go to a park, he could see a junior walking down the street and be like, hey, you're supposed to be in school, I'm gonna call your mom right now. And he could literally pick up the phone and call mom. Like, he just had that kind of grassroots, I know my community, I know where the crime is, I know where the people belong, I know what makes sense, what doesn't. And I think Pomona was a better fit for me than a place like Redondo, although I will say I do miss the ability to take more time to just go hand out stickers or to take more time to just go find a school. So, but it's definitely a calling. There's lots of different positions within a police department, so I just recommend if you do want to have a good retirement and a good financial base, then just research the different positions that police departments have. For our dispatch, you can do a sit-along and see exactly what they do. You can do ride-alongs for police officer, and then we can always set you up to speak with a jailer because we can't really walk you through the jail. But jailers have a very interesting job that's definitely not for everybody. And I'm done. I'm getting kicked out. Thank you, guys.